You know you should be investing. You're told to invest 10 to 15% of your income, but if your reaction is with what money, that's the real problem. Most people don't understand that they don't have an income problem. They usually have a cash flow problem. And today's guest helps people find hundreds of dollars a month that they didn't even know they had. Sometimes as much, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, usually as much as $700 a month. And once you find that extra cash, investing stops feeling impossible and starts feeling addictive. Or at least that's my experience with investing. So welcome to the show, Paris. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Excited.
I'm glad to be here. It's always exciting to get to share my passion. You know, I love helping people with their money. So,
well, yeah, that's actually where I wanted to start is how did you get into helping people unlock cash flow?
Oh, wow. That's a story actually. So it's kind of one of those random stories that just happens in life. And so I was working for a company in corporate America, and I had qualified for the 401k. The HR department came in and said, here's the paperwork for your 401k, fill it out, turn it back in and let us know what you want to do. And I was like, what's a 401k? Like, I didn't even know how to spell it. You know what I mean? That's the joke. But so I started reading a bunch of books. To me, that was an important decision. Like, I don't want to, like, who do I marry? Like, what house do I buy? How many kids do I have? Like, my retirement plan. Like, you know, that to me, that's a pretty important deal. And so I didn't want to take it casually. So I thought I'd read some books and learn some things. And I was reading probably a book a week on money, just anything I could get my hands on investing and multiple streams. I mean, just different kinds of books about money investing. And so I finally felt comfortable investing and picking what I was going to do for my 401k. And my coworker saw me reading all these books. She heard the story too with HR because we were in cubicles, you know how it is in corporate America. And so anyways, she says, Paris, help me. She's older. So I figured, why are you asking me? You should know this stuff already. You're older than I am. And she says, Paris, I after sharing with her what I'd learned, I said, I'm not a professional, but I'll do my best. And she says, Paris, you have a gift. You should do this for a living. And I was like, okay, maybe I should. And so she says, I finally understand what to do with money after all these years. You're the first person to explain it in a way that I can understand it. And so I was like, let me go pursue a career. So I went to the local university to I was already enrolled, but looking to transfer and kind of focus in on financial planning and financial, the arena there. So as I was doing that, I met with somehow again, a financial professional recruiter for a firm came and says, Paris, we'd love to have you on board. And I said, well, I'm already going to school. I'm trying to do all this, get the degree and all that. And he says, well, this was his rebuttal to my objection. He said, Paris, you can go to school, you can learn and then earn, or you can come work with us and earn while you learn. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to earn while I wasn't a dummy, right? So I'm going to earn while I learn. And, one of the first standard objections, there's probably a half a dozen that just come up regularly. So I get licensed, I get ready to go. And one of my first things out, I don't have any money. I have no money to invest. What you just said in the introduction, you're supposed to invest 10%, 20%, whatever there's 50, 30, 20.
15 feels like the most common that what people recommend, but it's all over the place. 10 to 20% is usually the standard wisdom.
Yeah. And so I just thought to myself, how can I come up with a way to help people find money? Because I know they have money. Yeah. It's just what are they doing with it? And that really blossomed into the story of how to help people really find cash flow. And what was there were some things that were low hanging fruit. They were pretty easy.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, now how do I get into even more? Like, how do I really dive in and help them with their budgeting? And there was one family in particular that this really kind of shined. And this is kind of one of the premier stories that came from my very beginning days in the industry. And I mean, I don't know if anybody knows where Corcoran, California is, but Corcoran, California is like there's a prison there.
Is it northern or southern?
It's middle.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I didn't know it.
It's southern middle.
Okay.
And it's famous for the prison. There's a big prison that's there. Anyways, I go out there and this family, I speak fluent Spanish. So this was a Spanish speaking family. And traditionally there's a little bit, there's economical, disadvantages sometimes. And so I was like, hey, if I can help you find $200 or $300, would you be willing to take half of it or some of it and invest in your future?
Invest it.
And they're like, Paris, we don't have 2 nickels. We have nothing. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, we're living paycheck to paycheck and we have debt. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And we live in Corcoran.
Yeah.
I mean, we live here for a reason, right?
It's cheaper.
And so I walked into that house and they said, yes, Paris, if you can find money, we'll take some of it and invest with you. And I said, okay, game on, right? Here's my challenge. So I walked in there and I just went through their budget with them. I went through their expenses. I went through all the things that they were putting, where they were putting their money. And I looked at several different things, and one of the strategies that we ended up going with ended up giving them about $800 a month.
Oh my.
Like match that, right? So
Yeah. Wow.
I don't, and that's not that's the thing about personal finance. It's personal.
It's personal.
Right? So if I say to you, hey, I can get you $800 a month, I may not. I may be able to find $400 for you. And if you have a larger income, I may be able to find $1,500 for you. So it just kind of depends on how the process goes. Yeah. And so once I got that down, I started really focusing in on how can I help people free up cash flow and what are they doing with their money? And I absolutely agree with you. It's not, investing isn't a get a better stock, pick a better dividend, pick a better Bitcoin or whatever, or crypto or real estate or whatever. Investing is a cash flow problem. If you can't fund your investment vehicle, whatever it is, you're not going to make it. It's not going to arrive at the right amount that you need for your financial independence number.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I've just had recently a couple of realtors on, and we were talking about how nice it can be invest in real estate, but all of them said investing in real estate isn't going to build you income now. It's not going to transform. It's going to help your retirement, right? That's for the future. But if you can't make now work, it doesn't matter what you invest in, right? You have to have the cash flow, and that's what makes it so you can invest. It's not, you don't need to invest to get wealthy. You need to manage your budget well so you can invest. And that's the exact way you do it doesn't matter. I'm against mutual funds generally, but I don't care if you invest in mutual funds. If you can't invest at all, it doesn't matter what you invest in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And which is why I thought this was so cool. It's let's talk about how to get budgets better.
Well, everybody wants to be wealthy, and everyone wants to be rich, and everybody wants to have money at the end of the day. And more particularly, everybody wants to have financial independence. Yeah. And that's defined as individually. Again, that's a personal definition. And so when I coach people, I say, what is your personal? We talk about their personal definition. Traditionally, financial independence is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. And that's different for everybody. And so that's a common definition. So when I ask, I say, okay, what do you want to do? Who do you want to do it with? And when do you want to do it? Right.
Yeah.
And the ability to do that comes down to that independence, that financial freedom comes down to how have you funded whatever vehicle you're going to fund. Yeah. How are you funding it? And if they're in my experience, 25 years doing this, hundreds of families across the kitchen table, over the Zoom, all different ways, speaking from all kinds of places, podcasts, guesting. One of the things that I found, the most important first step is positive cash flow. If you don't have a positive cash flow, you will never have financial independence. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it as well, pause and let that sink in. If you do not have positive cash flow, it won't work, because I see people on Instagram that are paying off debt and all that. And it's the only way they were able to do that was by creating positive cash flow. There had to be a difference between what they earned and how what they spent to be able to make it to where they could do that. And whatever that gap between income and expenses is what allows you to either build wealth or, like you said, build retirement, right? If that's $200 a month or $1,000 a month, that's the leverage you have to eventually get to wherever you want. And one reason I like this idea of being able to lower your expenses, like you're talking about, creating more cash flow, if you make it so that you're spending less, you then need less to be able to retire, right? Someone that only needs $40,000 a year to retire, how much money they need to be able to have that financial independence is way different than someone that needs $150,000 a year to retire, right? It's reducing your expenses reduces how much you need. Anyways, it's exciting.
Well, it just boils down to the goal. The goal is financial independence. So how do you achieve that? Well, I think one of the fastest, most easiest ways to do it is to create something that will give you a passive income. Yeah. And passive income is supposed to take care of your expenses so that you can become work optional. So the lower your expenses, the less passive income you have to build. Yeah. Because passive income is a key, and I have some, and it's excellent, and I want to build more. But I realized that I've built my expenses so it was super funny in my personal story. Yeah. I built my passive income to the point where I paid all of our bills, and my wife got a job. She's like, we just want extra money. Her business was extra money for the first several years. Then we moved to Utah. We get an upgrade. We have a bigger house now, and all these other things. Lifestyle. Inflation. And I thought to myself, what did I just do to myself? I was very wise and frugal with my lifestyle inflation. I didn't use all of it. Yeah. But now looking back, I'm like, I probably didn't.
That gap diminished a little bit.
And I thought, dang it, now I got to go rebuild more passive income to take over the expenses that I now have. And the other part of that too is early 2000. I think I hit positive cash flow passive income around 2016, 17, somewhere in there. And my kids were young, and my oldest is 26 now. So I think he was just turning 16. And I realized, oh no, I'm going to have to buy a car. I'm going to have to pay for car insurance. And so that was the first kind of initial shock to my increase in expenses, is because, you have 5 kids or however many kids. I have 5 kids, but however many kids you get, they get more expensive. Over time. So I didn't account for that at the time. And so I was like, shoot, now I got to go back to work and start making more money to kind of pay for these new expenses. But yeah.
That's cool. That's so different because like so many people, right? The traditional mindset is I get the best job I can and I spend that money, right? It's like I have my expenses. I have left over this amount so I can use that on whatever I want. They don't realize that's what you can use to build. It's just fascinating, right? Because there's a different way you can think about it. So I suppose I kind of want to walk through 4 different areas, and totally fine to go wherever you want to go with this. But I kind of want to talk about like why people should care about utilizing that gap better when there is, or creating a gap if they need to. What are some of the beliefs or behaviors that people can be aware of that they can change to instantly change this? And then perhaps maybe we can talk about some like examples that you've seen. Like we've already shared some stories about people fixing that behavior. Maybe we can give a couple examples like, hey, someone's listening, here's something they could do. So that's kind of where I'm hoping to walk through with this.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. First area was the whole, right, that the mindset change about income versus cash flow. So when someone's saying, right, they can't afford this, we've already talked about that. What are some of the more common things people are missing when they're looking at numbers? Like you said, that one family in California, right? There was an $800 difference. What are some of the most common ways people can quickly fix some cash flow problems?
I think honestly, a couple of things, and it's more mindset if I can start there.
Yeah. And you also talked about it being very personal. Obviously this is extremely personal, but yeah, generically.
So generically, it really begins with your belief system. For example, that family didn't believe that when I first met with them, they didn't believe that there was even a space between income and expenses. It was not possible to find it. And I wonder where they got that belief. What are the things that the commercials they're watching, the influence they're getting from the neighbors to, the keeping up with the Joneses mentalities. And so there's something called social indifference. And if you have social indifference, you have power over what society or what sociality says that you should be buying, doing, and with your money. Nobody pays your bills but you. And so if you're listening to your friends or neighbors or watching them, and don't get me wrong, I have a couple neighbors that have installed some cool things in their house. I'm like, man, I'd like to have that too, But I have a different approach to that, and we'll get into that in a minute. But so it's real. It's very real to look in the neighborhood and say, oh, I want an RV. I want a boat. I want to, oh, dang, that guy's got a nicer truck he just, upgraded to. I want to have that too,
He just got a Tesla.
Right? Or whatever. So it's real. And I want people to recognize that is a real thing. So the mindset first, you have to remember that nobody pays your bills but you. Nobody knows your cash flow but you. And as a coach, what's kind of funny is my wife doesn't get to see the numbers like I get to see the numbers with people. So she'll say, hey, why do they get to do this, that, and the other? I said, well, I can't tell you the numbers, but just trust me, they're not living. They look like they're living better than they really are. Yeah. They're stressed out about money because they're financing their lifestyle. Yep. And we don't. I don't finance my lifestyle at all. I mean, I have a mortgage and I have, a student loan, but other than that, and I don't even have a car payment right now.
Yep.
I've
never had a car payment.
I hope I don't.
Car payment in my life. I'm like, I don't understand what that's like, right? Like I've always bought old used Priuses and stuff. Like
I'm saving up for a new car, and I hope that my car lasts long enough for me to save up enough to get a new car. But even then, you should do something. You be very wise with the numbers and make sure that, because I bought a car years ago and I went in used car dealership and they were like 12% interest. I was like, what? What's the payment? What's the amount? And I thought, this is ridiculous. So I went to my credit union, and my credit union was like, oh, we'll do it for 3% interest, and we'll do this more, and we'll do a bit longer term. And I got a way better deal. So shopping does do your due diligence is what I'm getting there.
Shop your loans.
Yeah. So I think mentality has a lot of mental toughness, your habits and behaviors have a lot to do with how well I believe my saying is money has more to do with habits and behaviors than it does with math.
Yeah.
And math has a lot to do with money. Money has a lot to do with math. So if habits and behaviors are more, we really need to take a look at that. And, I just did a YouTube video on my channel about how there's really, I got several more to do, but I picked three limiting beliefs that basically sabotage your ability to gain wealth. And when we overcome some of these beliefs, then we can start to look at the numbers. I mean, everybody knows, Jacob, right? if you have $100 and you want to buy something that's $110, you shouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
That's just math.
You seen that SNL skit? If I have money that I can use, can I buy it? Okay, now take away the money. Nope, you can't buy it.
Right?
It's one page. I love that skit.
I love that skit too. And so that's the reality, but we still do it.
Yep.
And why? Sometimes it's because we have a deep-seated emotion that we, as a child, we saw our parents struggle. And so we're like, we want to be better than our parents. So we're going to buy it anyways. Sometimes it's, my neighbors had something better. I want to be cool like them. Or sometimes it's, we had a ton of things. And we're like, hey, my parents grew up and I had all the money I needed. And maybe my income isn't near the same as my parents, but because I had that habit and belief growing up, I just buy things now because I believe that I deserve it or whatever, because I used to be able to just get whatever I wanted when I was a kid. So well,
when you're a sibling, sometimes it's like, hey, my brother is buying like this. Okay, yeah, but he bought a house in 2016. It's a little bit different than buying a house in 2022 or 2025 or whatever, right? So whether it's siblings or neighbors, right? Okay, cool.
So there's these beliefs that we have around why we're spending our money. And so that's, I think, the first thing. The other part of it is not a lot of people begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey says, in his steps, he says the 7 habits of highly effective people, he says, begin with the end in mind. So what is your end game? What does retirement look like for you? Is it 65? Do you want to FIRE, F-I-R-E, financial independence, retire early? Or do you want to, my whole thing is great. If you want to retire early, that's fine. But can we at least set a goal for you to retire on time? Because there's way too few people that are actually retiring on time.
Yeah, people are retiring at like 70 instead because they just can't afford it.
They can't. And so and that's because the end game they didn't begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And so part of that is, here's an example. I have one of my clients last year. She really wanted to create a charity for abused women and children. And I said, okay, great. That's kind of your goal. That's a goal out in the future, 5 to 10 years, however long, whatever the goal was. And I said, now let's think about today. Right now, if you have $1, now that dollar can only be put one place. And once it's put there, you can't put it in a second place because it's $1 only can go one place. So does that $1 that you have today, is that going to go towards your charity that you want to build and create? Is it going to go towards everything that you need to establish that charity for battered women and children? Or are you going to buy that another pair of shoes? Or are you going to buy that, chocolate that you shouldn't probably be eating?
Yeah.
Or the extra, junk food, or you're going to go out to eat at the restaurant or the fast food place. And so it really helped her think, oh my gosh, every dollar that I spend has a purpose. It's like a seed. And is that seed going to grow towards my purposes, my values, my future, or is it going to just go and do whatever? And so it brings me back to another saying that I really enjoy, that if you're not intentional with your money, you're going to give it to someone who is. And so my goal is to help people find out, what are your intentions with your money? What do you want to accomplish with your money? And let's create. So I call it my game planning session, or my GPS. When you have a phone, then you get somewhere like today coming to the studio.
Yeah.
I opened up my GPS, I typed in the address, and I hit directions, and then it showed me an overview, and then I hit start, and it gave me turn by turns.
Exactly how to get here.
And so that's what I do with people. I say, what is your goal? Because if I wanted to get here on time, I'm not going to take detours and go over here and drive down this neighborhood. Oh, that looks like a nice neighborhood. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay the course, and I'm going to arrive at my destination. And so that mentality is very helpful when you're looking at your expenses today.
Yeah.
If I spend $1 today on this issue or this whatever shiny object that I just came across, is it going to bring me closer to my goals or further away from my goals?
Yeah.
And so I start with goals. I start with planning and goal setting, because if you have a clearly defined goals, your temptations to spend money where you shouldn't are diminished dramatically.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this while you were saying it, that people will say that dollar analogy. I've heard people get really upset at that sort of thing. Well, I have a whole budget and I can use some of my money on this and some of my money on that. And I'm like, that's not the point. The point is recognizing the truth that saying yes to anything is saying no to something else.
Exactly.
Right. Saying yes to spend your money this way is saying no to that. And you cannot have it both ways, right? Like if you choose I really, really like that and appreciate that.
If you have enough money, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
Don't get because there is something called destination addiction.
Yeah.
Where you get so addicted to the destination that
you're not living life.
You're not living life. And that's a miser, somebody who's a miser. There's a lot of people that, I've sat down with over the years, and not me specifically, but other of my colleagues, well, they'll tell me like, I've got a guy with millions of dollars in his retirement.
I'm trying to convince him to spend some money.
And he doesn't want to spend it because he's just been so frugal, not frugal, but he's been so cheap, honestly, if I can use that word, throughout his life. And there's a difference between frugality and cheap. But, we can talk about that if you want to. But
Financial Ginger is brought to you by, me, the Financial Ginger. If you live in Utah and need auto or home insurance, I am your local independent advisor. I broker for nearly 25 insurance companies, which means I can shop the entire insurance market for you to make sure your rate and your coverage fit your situation and not some company quota. When you call, a real person answers the phone during business hours. No phone trees, no pressing 1, 3, or 7 just to talk to a human. Email jacobinsuresutah@gmail.com or call or text 801-216-8444 to get your quote today. Now back to the episode. One of the things I grew up with, we didn't go out to eat a whole lot. Partially because my dad enjoyed cooking, partially because they're 6 kids trying to keep finances in budget. And they paid off their mortgage like 10 years into a 30-year mortgage. I didn't find that out till later in my life because they did like the whole Dave Ramsey method. They got rid of all their credit cards until recently. They started getting Sky Miles because like, wait, we can travel to see grandkids. So they got a credit card again.
That's awesome.
But like they were saying no. So when we went out to eat, it was always a rule like we just got on. We didn't get appetizers. We didn't get sodas, right? Because those were extra things that added up the cost. Not that they couldn't have done that, right? They weren't saying no completely to going out to eat. It was, we're going to intentionally do this on occasion with specific parameters because we want it to stay within this budget, because the goal is we're paying off a house, we're building towards retirement. And I'm very grateful to see my parents be like, they're in their early 60s, so they're right about to retire, right? Where I know a lot of other people that aren't because they didn't have that GPS, right? They had that sign. So they still enjoyed the journey. We still went out and eat. Maybe not as much as the Joneses or whoever, but I still remember it. But right, there was those things where I was like, oh, well, they always get soda when they go out to eat. Why don't we do that? Right. And it's like, oh, well, the little dollars add up. They weren't cutting it out completely. They were controlling the way they spend their money intentionally. So I don't know, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but I really like that. That's cool.
I think that's where you have to start. And then once you recognize, okay, I have a goal, I have a plan that I want to achieve this goal. And now you got to work the plan. And the working the plan is where you take a look. And what I do, I have a system that I share with people. In fact, I have a free ebook if I can offer it to your audience. Yeah,
definitely. I'll throw it in the description. Check the description for the free ebook.
Yeah, it's pariscluff.com/free gift. And that's you can just, if you're listening and you want to type it in, hopefully you're not driving. But if you're listening, you type it in pariscluff.com/free gift.
And I imagine they have to trade their email for that.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So there's a little bit of
cheap price to pay.
Right. And so you'll probably be on my newsletter and, be in my environment. So once you kind of get an idea of, okay, I need to make some changes, because there's another saying that I really appreciate is, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And so if you like what you're getting, keep doing it. If you don't like what you're getting, it's time to make a change. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be difficult. So when you look at your expenses, one of the things that I say is that if you're going to change a habit, you have to know what it is.
Yeah. You have to be aware. If you're not aware of a problem, how can you change the problem?
Exactly. Yeah. And so in fact, a guy, I was a guest on a podcast, and this guy calls me up a couple months later and he says, Paris, of all the people I could think about, you were the one that came to mind. I need help. I got a wedding coming up. My finances are in totally disarray. I might have to talk to a lawyer, about about
bankruptcy
or something like that. And I was like, he's like, what do I do? I said, this is the first step. You go look at your habits, your spending habits. Go do a 90-day look back, a review on that, and look back over the last 90 days. Now you can do 6 months, but it's a little more work. And I just say, do a look back over 90 days, get your averages, look at every dollar you spent. And it's going to be a little bit of work the first time you do this. So don't sit down and do it right, please.
Yeah.
When you do a 90-day look back, you can see everywhere your dollars went. And then you can say to yourself, is where that dollar went serving me today? Is where that dollar went bringing me value and peace today? Yeah. If it does, then stay spending in that category. Because as you look back over the last 9 days, you'll see different patterns. You'll say, oh, this is restaurants, this is, entertainment, this is, mortgages.
And you can just label it that way. Yeah. It's like, this is how much I'm spending on entertainment. This is how much I'm spending on my mortgage. Here's
exactly. And then add it all up.
Here's my groceries.
I would add up every month and then average it over the 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you have an idea of where, like, this is what I shared in my video, I think a couple weeks ago that I talked about.
The one that I looked at, the cash flow statements.
Yeah, where I don't believe in a strict budget. I believe in averages, and we're human beings. We're creatures of habit. So we're going to stay within a certain range of our habits anyways, unless there's some weird thing that we're saving for specifically. But once you know what your habits are, you can begin to change them.
Yeah.
And I actually was on a podcast yesterday, and the guy said, how do you, actually the lady said, how do you tell people, or how do you advise people to change their spending? And I said, honestly, once they know, they change it.
Yes.
Because if I tell them, hey, you're spending too much money at Starbucks, I'm a heretic. I'm blaspheming against their desires.
Not my Starbies.
Yeah. But if they look at it and said, oh my gosh, I spent that much, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cut it back. And I'm not saying get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
I'm going to stop ordering drinks when I go to restaurants or whatever.
Just be aware of it.
Yeah.
If it's serving you, if it's bringing you value, spend there. If it's not bringing you value, cut back or diminish or get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. I think that a lot of people get so caught up in a budget. Oh no, I can only spend $100 this month, and I'm at 99, and I want to buy something, and don't worry about that. And
that's not sustainable.
No.
You emotionally cannot handle that, and you will override that with your emotion.
Exactly. That's why I say stay within an average.
Yeah.
Because
and make awareness.
Yeah. If one month you spend $150, the next month, you're probably spending 100. So your average is 125.
Yeah.
So just keep it within the average and you're fine. And that's why it's so important to track and keep track of the numbers, in my opinion, over a period of time. I've been doing this for years. So I have years of data on my averages, and they increase over time because inflation and lifestyle and stuff
especially
like that.
Here in Utah over the last 3 years, I've noticed like every category has gone up by how much I'm spending on gas, how much I'm spending on food. Like that one's gone up like 20-30% in the last couple of years. And it's not that we're spending more on more things and items. It's those have gone up in price, which is good. My budget aware of that. One of the things that I was thinking about when you're talking about that is the awareness factor. So when my wife and I got married about 5 years ago, I was studying financial, so my degree was in financial planning. My degree was over at UVU. And I used to work at the counseling center. So I worked with a lot of college kids, and some of the coaches there, the financial coaches would be complaining. It's like, oh, I have to tell every kid that they're spending too much on fast food. I'm like, why are you telling them that they're spending too much on fast food? Just tell them how they're spending their money.
Yeah.
And that will make it easier for them to correct their behavior themselves. Sometimes it doesn't, but for most people, the awareness is half the battle. For the first year of our marriage, I don't know why, especially me knowing this, I just didn't. Right. And then it was like, oh, wait a second, we're spending more than normal. And like our emergency fund is getting lower. I'm like, what's going on here? Like we had to pull money from that to account for over expenses. And so we just tracked our budget. It took a whole long time to do. We put all the numbers in and we were like, oh, here's exactly how we've spent more since, in the year. Like here's how we spent our money. That was really hard at first.
Yeah.
And then we were doing weekly, like touch base with each other just to get things back on track. Cause also my income was really low at that time.
Yeah.
And obviously my income's gone up since then and whatnot. We've been able to increase some of those categories, but I was like, we are spending more than we're bringing in, and that's a problem.
Absolutely.
So we fixed it just by awareness. Just awareness alone almost fixed it all. And then we had conversations, right? I value this, you value this. It's easier when you're single to immediately fix it by that, but you have to compromise with each other. But part of what made it possible to do that, I know vibes-based budgeting isn't the right way to say that, right? That rather than strict is loosely, is you have to make sure you're spending less than you earn. And you have to have a little bit of a buffer, right? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that might not work. You might need to do some sort of zero cost thing or work with the coach to get, find that $800 of cash flow, right? Whatever you do to get it to where you reverse that. And once you're in that, then you can figure out the averages and stay within it. But you have to have at least 1 month of expenses saved up first, which a coach can really help with.
Oh, absolutely. And so to bring back the story I was sharing with you about that other guy who said he was getting married and he was, having to be, I gave him the 90-day look back just at that one assignment. I mean, there's so many other ways to look in things. I gave him just do the 90-day look back. And he said, Paris, after a little while, I was like, hey, how did it go with, how did it work? And he says, Paris, I was able to free up about $400 to $600 a month.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I said, and I shot him back a quick quip. I said, hey, that's just one of many strategies that I have, by the way. I can help you with some other stuff if you really want to get serious. But that was so cool to have him come back and say, just with one strategy, just the 90-day look back, just the awareness, he was able to say, I don't need to be spending to the tune, in his case, of $400, $500, $600 a month, that he was just I call them holes in your bank account. You know, there are holes in your bank account. You need to patch those holes quickly, otherwise you're going to sink. And so he patched up several of those holes and was able to free up that much more money. And he's like, Paris, thank you so much. What you did was great. In fact, he had another solo podcast that he did where he referenced me as he said, I just was talking to a financial coach and this is what he helped me do. So I got a couple of, little shout outs there. It was kind of nice.
That's cool. Who, if you're okay with it, what's the other podcast that we should have people go listen to?
It's called, Live to Thrive.
Live to Thrive?
Live to Thrive. And
I think it's check it out.
The number 2. Live to Thrive. I think that's his podcast. Anyways.
Sweet. I have to go check it out. I love listening to podcasts. I've been listening to a lot more of them since I started a podcast. I'm like, wow, this is actually really nice when I'm driving and stuff. Wow, this is really cool. With the budgeting stuff, right? Because we were talking about a little bit about how, right, like non-traditional budgeting. I really liked your recent YouTube video. I think it was called I Don't Budget as a Financial Coach. We've kind of talked about it a little bit. But we talked about doing the averages. What other strategies are really important to that? Like, I know you talk about sinking funds in that video a little bit, and how that can help with the emotional side, like dealing with guilt and burnout when you're strict budgeting. Any other aspects of that would like?
Well, there's a lot of people out there that want to build a side hustle. So they're entrepreneurial in some way, or they're maybe just building something. I mean, they work for a company perhaps. And a lot of people, Here's what I say. If I was to hire you to be the CFO of my money, how fast would I go broke or how fast would I become wealthy? So if you managed my money the way you manage your own, what would happen to my money? And so that's that gives people a time to pause and think and say, if I was hired to manage someone else's money the way I manage my money, would they fire me?
Yeah.
Or would they continue to keep me on staff? And so I say, look, you need to become the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of your house. So become a household CFO. And if you're budgeting your money, if you're managing your money the way a professional would do in a business, the same way in your family, you're going to have a higher likelihood of success. And that's hard to do sometimes because you got kids that are coming at you with, hey, Dad, can we, Mom, can we buy this? And you have your spouse or significant other that's coming at you with their concerns. And that's why as a family, it's critical to get on the same page.
Yeah.
You have to get on the same page with your spouse specifically, and then the kids need to be brought in. I personally I think that the old adage that you shouldn't tell your kids, your financial situation, I think that's a little bit of nonsense because the more they understand, the more they can wrap their heads around why you're telling them no.
Yeah.
And so I taught my kids, hey, this is how much money we make. These are our expenses. This is how much we have left over. And whenever we buy anything at my family, we save for it first. We save. We don't do buy now, pay later. We do save now, buy later. Like the SNL skit that you referenced earlier.
Yes.
So if I don't have money in savings, I shouldn't buy something. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I like that because my parents were really good about this, and it's just totally different for everyone. Like we would plan summer vacations. It was like, hey, this is the money that's needed for this. What do we want to cut back on to be able to get there, or do we want to wait another year? Because we were aware of some of that cash flow stuff. Our parents, we were homeschooled, so we were way more involved with our parents than a lot of kids sometimes are with every aspect. But it was like, okay, budgeting and this and one summer we reached out to another Kindred Learning. They don't exist anymore. They kind of shut down, but they produced homeschooling books and literature, but they also sold these little wooden catapult kits, right? And it was just like wooden 2x4s cut up in certain ways and metal bolts and rubber bands and little chair cap lids or whatnot that screw on. And we reached a deal where we were going to build the catapult kits for them in exchange, like they were going to pay us to do it. And that was one of the ways we were going to save for a trip. I think we were going to go to Disneyland, with our families in California. Yeah. And some of it we also kept for, each of our kids, the kids in our family kept some of the money. But anyways, so we had a timesheet, and it was like, here's how much time I spent working on the catapult kits. And I would go out in the garage on Saturdays for a couple hours, and I would set up all of the tools to do all the cuts on the 2x4s into making them smaller. And then I'd set up the cuts for the sheet wood to punch the holes where the drill, set up. And then we would do a big assembly session. We get all the kids that were able to, and we would have everything in assembly line. I'd be putting everything in the bags and zipping and stapling them shut and putting the labels on them and all that stuff. And I did the math on this when I was like 13 years old doing this with my siblings. We figured that we were each making about $22 to $23 an hour.
Wow.
And this was in like 2006 2007,
That's a
2006,
lot of money.
right? Well, because we got really efficient at it. We're like, oh, well, right. Dad was talking. It's like, if we can make one catapult, they're going to pay us, like $2.15 or whatever, because they sell them for $5 on their website, whatever it was. Right. And it's like, oh, well, if we get all the supplies and I do 400 of the same cut, we're going to make 1,000 catapult kits in one go by being more repetitious, because then you can do that one. You don't have to reset the drill every time. Make 1,000 kits. Oh, it's more efficient the more we do. So I think we did 3 batches. The first one was like 1,000. The second one was 1,000. And then we did like 2,000. That one we made even more money, because it's like, oh, you really get. So I learned so much about business from that. Sadly, don't do anything like that anymore. But that was a really cool. And then we as kids contributed to making the money to pay for a family trip.
Absolutely.
Right? And this was in the middle of my parents also working to pay off their mortgage and all that, right? Like we were aware of that sort of, well, I didn't know about the mortgage part, but I knew like they were trying to. So I don't know, hopefully that's an interesting story for someone, but yeah, being aware of money, especially as a kid, is super important. I actually taught a class up at Logan, up in Logan at the university, Utah State. They had a homeschool convention. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. And they invited me. They're like, oh, you're a finance coach. You taught, well, I'm not a finance coach anymore. I'm an insurance agent now. But back then I was doing coaching and all that. And they were like, how can you talk to your kids about money? So I went and did like a 45-minute presentation about age groups and like, right? People have those chore charts. Like when they're 3 years old, they should know how to make their bed. When they're 4, they should start folding their own laundry. When they're 5, they should open the dishes or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, here's how you can teach your kids about income and expenses and different ages. And it's been a while since I did that, but absolutely involve your kids in understanding your money, because that'll help them want to be involved and it'll make them better with their money.
Absolutely.
Parents that live month to month or paycheck to paycheck, there's a higher statistical probability that their kids will struggle in that same way.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So if you get your money under control, that's going to ripple down for generations.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I say, look, we were at the store and the kid says, my child says, hey, I want this, Dad. Good. Let's put it on a list and we'll save up for it. And by the time we've saved up for it, we'll go back and look at it and they're like, oh, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
But then they have the money. And so I say, well, you have this much money. Is there anything else you want to get? And if it's something that's within the less than what we've saved up for, we can buy that instead. But they have that mentality of delayed gratification, saving first, buying later. And that's powerful. My wife and I have been doing that for 15 years. We don't have any credit card debt. I think I paid interest one time because like the payment caught me by surprise and I sent it, and by the time it arrived, it was like 2 days late and it was like $3 in interest. I was like, no, my streak is over, But for the last 15 years, we haven't paid any consumer debt interest. And so I just don't do it anymore. I save first. And now I have what are called, like you mentioned earlier, a sinking fund. And actually the sinking funds is a term that came out of in the Netherlands, I believe, because there were certain things that they needed to save up for. And so they're like, well, we'll just sink some money into this account over here. And then when we have enough, we'll go do that. And so this idea caught on of having a sinking fund. It's what it's called now, is where you, like, for example, I have a Christmas fund.
Yeah.
And I start funding that in January. I know exactly how much money I spend every Christmas. And, my family's grown. So I'm spending.
It might inflate, but you can choose the number.
Right. So I know
it into your monthly budget.
Right. I know that my Christmas budget is X number of thousands of dollars and divided by 12. And I start in January, February. I just pay. I have a car repair fund. Whose car doesn't break down at some point?
Teslas don't. No, just kidding. They do. Everything
Whose
does.
car doesn't need new tires?
You're going to need new tires,
Right?
so why not plan for it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just save in advance. So when the car repair shows up, I just take it from my savings. Now, is it still stressful? Sure.
Yeah.
But it's about a third or a quarter of the stress that I would have if I didn't have the money and I had to put it on a credit card. And so I'm just sharing ways to reduce stress. The number one, the money is attributed to the leading cause of stress in the world right now.
And divorce.
And
As well as stress too.
yeah. So stress is the leading cause of disease. Therefore, in my opinion, money is the leading cause of disease. Money is an issue with divorce, as you said. And I want to say it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
When I have a couple come to me and I jokingly tell them, I say, look, well, now here's one of my selling points, right? Now, after we're done with this coaching, you're going to have to find something else to fight about because money is going to be so easy from here forward. And so those are just, once you get a system, once you have a system and you have a plan and you just follow the system, your money worries, your money stresses, your money anxieties, they diminish. They decrease so much that they're totally manageable and they're so much easier. I just, there's so many people that I've met over the years that come back and say, Paris, I thank you so much for the advice. Or, hey, Paris, I should have followed your advice. I didn't. And now look where I'm at, So it's just both sides of it. It's just really, and I'm not perfect at it. I've learned over the years. I've made mistakes. Part of the reason why I'm the way I am today is because I did lose everything in 2008 during that economic downturn. I lost my house. I lost my car. For goodness sakes, I could write a country music song about, the whole era of that period of my life. I mean, I spent time just really wondering if I wanted to be on the earth, because it was just such a hard time for me to lose everything. I had food stamps. I had a significant, it was really rewarding though, to walk into the social worker and turn in our food stamp card. And I said, can I keep it just for nostalgia? Because I don't need it anymore. And they're like, what? You got off of it? Like, it was that the person was in a little bit of a surprise to have somebody turn it in and say, we don't need it anymore. But I've learned a lot from those experiences in life and from doing it wrong and learning the lessons. And I've invested in all kinds of crazy businesses and it's gone the wrong direction. And I'm just like, now I'm very frugal. And frugality to me is buying things from value, not buying things just because they're shiny, just because the neighbors have them, or just because, the commercial said we should buy it. And, for $19.99, we can have all the happiness in the world, right? So just buy my gadget.
An extra chopper.
Yeah. And if you buy today, you get two. So I'm very intentional now with my money. And I still, even being intentional as I am, there's still times when it just,
we all are human.
Yeah.
And do it. But having those systems in place, the review and the averages and, having that, like even doing that with yourself, like you're talking about your kid, being like, hey, do you have the money for that right now? Okay, well, do you still want it? Why don't you wait a day or two before you click checkout on Amazon?
Exactly.
See, do you still really want this? Like, were you just excited because your sister, like, here's a super simple example of this. And it's like a $10 example, right? This is a small bit of a bigger picture. I got a 1 gallon water bottle when I was in college because I was like on this health kick and I was taking it everywhere. I was walking around school. Then I go to the gym with it and it had like a hand, like a paracord handle on it to carry. It was a gallon. I was drinking a gallon of water every day. And some of my siblings thought it was cool. My parents thought it was cool. So they bought everyone a gallon water bottle for Christmas.
Oh my!
And I stopped using it because I was like, it's annoying. Everyone has to. But for all of them, it was like, oh, Jacob's experiencing this little success. Well, the success wasn't the water bottle, right? It was the behaviors that changed. But sometimes people are like, oh, well, they're doing something and I want to do the same thing too. And it's like, okay, well, did any of them even use that water bottle? Most of them didn't, And so sometimes spending money is like that. It's just like, oh, I see someone's doing something. I want to do something too. Well, maybe that's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Right. It's not gonna be the same. And so it's like, do you really want to? So giving yourself a little bit of buffer, that makes a world of difference. And it makes it easier to recover from mistakes. Because if you're spending from money you have, if you make a mistake, worst case, you lost that money. If you spend it on a credit card, and even if it is an investment of some sort, like a business or whatever, or education or whatever, and you lose, it now hurts more because now you're paying interest on that debt, right? So even just that alone, if someone can just from that institute a delayed gratification, whether it's by waiting till you actually have the money or a 72-hour rule before clicking spend, that'll change your finances dramatically.
Absolutely.
Because you have to have a mindset shift to do that. So, yeah. I wanted to ask about you talked about people changing forever. They'd have to find something different to argue about with their spouse. Because I've seen people that like go to a finance coach or a budget coach and like things work for a while and they fall out of the habit. Like what sort of meetings or habits or what's going to prevent someone from falling back into old habits after they've changed their behavior for a little bit? That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to go back to a little bit, in my opinion, the goals that we have. And, goals are 10 years out sometimes. And so are you committed to doing that? And then you have to change the behavior around what you do. The Atomic Habits is a really good book. If you haven't read that book, it's a really excellent book. And Atomic Habits says that, often we say that, habits are formed after 30 days. And while that has a factor in it, Atomic Habits gets into more that the habit changes after a certain number of repetitions. And so if you want to have a coach, if you're going to just meet with me for a 2-hour session or a 1-hour session,
that's not going to change,
or a month, it's not going to change your behavior as dramatically as if you're working with me for, a 90-day program. Or even if you're join my community where you have, or a community where you have like-minded people that you're constantly checking in with and having accountability with. Because they did a study years ago that goal setting was successful to, if you just set a goal, you're 10 or 20% more likely to achieve it than by not.
If you write it down.
Yeah. If you set a goal and write it down, you're 20% more. You know what I mean? They went through the steps.
You set a goal, write it down, put it somewhere you can see it, and read it verbally every day. It goes up like 60% or something crazy.
And then
like that.
if you do that and have an accountability coach, it goes up to like 90% likelihood. So there's a jump literally from, you can do all the things yourself and it's like 60% likelihood, but then that coach is the biggest jump in accountability. And you might find a friend. You don't have to hire somebody necessarily, but if you have a friend or somebody that you can say, hey, keep me accountable to this. And that's something that I think is really good with a husband and wife. And you got to be careful because, if you get too accountable, you might get a little bit of arguing again.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to really look at your money regularly and see where it's going and make sure you're still committed to those goals and those plans and that system. And so if you have a coach or if you have somebody you can be accountable to, that's going to really kick up the next level. I think that when you look at your personal finances, there's, as I shared earlier in the show, we're talking about cash flow statements and being a CFO of your business or CFO of your household, like you would be in a business. If you have a cash flow statement in your personal finances, that's how much money's coming in and how much money's going out. You're tracking that regularly. I track my cash flow every week. Once a week, I sit down for 15 minutes or so, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and I just track my cash flow, and I keep track of my averages. And then I do it on Tuesday because the bank clears through the weekend, and by Tuesday morning, it's all finalized. The ledgers are finalized. But then once a month, I'll do like what I call is my net worth update. And the net worth update is where you look at your balance sheet, and your balance sheet is all the money that you owe and all the money that you own. And so what do you owe and what do you own? If you look at all of those things, you can check your net worth. So if your net worth is growing, it means you have a positive cash flow because you're funding your assets. If your net worth is diminishing, it means you got to look at your cash flow statement to see if it's going to be, if it's moving in the right direction. If you have positive cash flow, but your net worth isn't growing, check the market.
Yeah. The investments might have gone
Did the
down
stock market just drop 10%?
Yeah.
Because I think it just did, and that's happened.
Yeah.
I've had clients in my own personal, I literally I did a YouTube video actually a couple months ago where I increased in 2025, I increased my net worth by 58%.
Wow.
Now, granted, the vast majority of that was the growth in the market. Right?
Yeah. Market was crazy.
Right. I believe in precious metals. I love precious metals. And if anybody who comes to me as a coach and they say, hey, what do you think about precious metals? I say,
gold backs.
Get them. Gold backs, gold bullion, silver, all those things. In fact, I have a partnership with Goldbacks. I know the owners and guys over there.
I watched one of your old videos.
Oh, did you?
That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, so I love them.
I research people have my podcast. That was exciting. I went and watched 3 or 4 of your old videos. I was like, that one on Goldbacks is really cool. I actually looked into them a little bit. Didn't buy any yet, but
that's cool. That's cool. So when silver went from $50 an ounce to 120, that was the majority of it.
Did you cash them out?
I didn't. I actually bought more because I know where it's headed. So the point is that sometimes your net worth can increase just because you were wise with your investments.
Yeah.
Sometimes
a tree from 10 years ago bears fruit.
Starts to bear, exactly. Sometimes your net worth is increasing because you're paying down your debts. And that's with a cash flow issue. And so if you're paying down debts and you're increasing your assets, you're on the right track. Yeah. And that gives you, to me,
peace. That's peace.
That's positive feedback that things are working. If things are working, the likelihood of you continuing to do it is much greater. If things aren't working, maybe you need some feedback from a coach or some accountability partner to figure out what's going on. So how likely is somebody to continue with a habit? It depends on how much success they're seeing. And if they're seeing that success, they're going to continue with the habit because they know it was working. If it's working, they're going to continue to do it. And that's at least what motivates me. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about it as you were saying, and a couple of thoughts came to my mind. It's like that if people are going to slide back, it's probably because they're not seeing success, or they're losing sight of the goals. And if they're doing that, it's probably because they're not having those meetings, right? Yep. Like I always talk about the 3 financial meetings once a week, whether it's to update that statement or to just double check your cash flow. For my wife and I, we did that really, really frequently early on, but now 4 years of doing it, we kind of do it once a month. But either way, it's consistent still. And it's just, is my income this month better than my last month? And then you have to keep sight on your goals. So like once a year we do a goal setting meeting, right? Like just like a CFO would, just like a business would. You have to run your life like a business did our assets increase or whatever, and however you want to check that, whether it's monthly or yearly or however you guys are going to do it. But you have to always circle back to the goal, the why. If the why loses interest, okay, who cares if you spent less than you earned. Oh, well, the reason why we want our assets to go up. Why? Well, the GPS, our goal says we want to retire, or we want this much money, or we need to save up to be able to buy a house, or whatever that goal is. If you remind yourself those goals, and those goals are actually important to you, it's easier to stick to it. So you have to see success.
Exactly.
You have to actually keep track of the goal. You have to write it down, have a coach, whatever those things. And if you find that you're falling back into old habits, one of those is misaligned. Maybe it's the wrong goal. Maybe you're not seeing success. Whatever it is, a coach or an accountability partner can help you. And that's why people succeed more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's interesting. It's interesting to me that people who make more money have coaches, and people who make less money want to make more money. And they don't realize that part of the reason why people who make more money are making more money is because they have advisors and coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not terribly expensive. In fact, a lot of people are like, Paris, you need to raise your prices for the value you're bringing. But I'm like, and I will eventually. But right now, everything is just what I need it to be able to kind of attract people to move forward. So I'm just, if people can get clear on their money and they start to see that it's working, and they start to realize, you know what, I just bought something from money I already had in savings, and it felt so much better than the last time I bought something. Those dopamine, if we're going to talk about dopamine hits, let's get positive dopamine hits rather than the scrolling and doom scrolling dopamine hits, or there's a reality to like shopping addiction and other things like that.
Well, it's dopamine. Yeah. It's dopamine.
And we want to have, the hit because we're sad, we're depressed, we're down. And part of that is because what you've done in the past is not bringing you the results that you want. And so if you change what you're doing, you're going to change your results. And that's as simple as it gets.
You get something different than what you always got, that can encourage you to continue with better behavior change.
So that's those are some of the things that I think that will improve someone's ability to continue on with the new habits.
I like that. Thank you. Okay. Kind of getting on, man, there's just so many things still to talk about that I want to talk about. Okay. If we were to give just one kind of summarize, I know there's a lot that we've covered, but for the listener that's listening, if there's just one thing that they could change that would take 5 or 10 minutes to do, what would be like the easiest thing someone could do to either save $100 a month or review their, I don't know, like what's the easiest low-hanging fruit someone could do to improve their financial situation just listening to this?
So besides downloading my ebook.
Yeah.
Another plug.
ParisCluff.com/free gift.
Yes. Besides that, I would say if you have an iPhone right now and you're listening to this, open up your subscriptions on your iPhone. And what are you subscribed to that you're not using anymore? And you'll find that you might find $100. I had somebody do this. I shared this with somebody who was going to go speak at an event, and they're like, "I'm going to try that with the audience." And she tried it with the audience, and they raised their hand. Okay, who has some subscription they want to cancel? So she raised, they had everybody raise their hand. I how much did you, who saved $25? Who saved $50? Somebody there saved like $150 just from canceling a subscription right on their phone, right there in the audience. And so I was like, that proved that. I said, thank you for proving the concept, because that works. So right now, if you're listening to this and you have your iPhone, open up your subscriptions, go to Apple, whatever it is, and look at your subscriptions. And are you using it? Mm-hmm. If you're using it, keep it. If you're not using it, get rid of it.
Yeah. If you haven't used that Audible subscription in forever, if you have an old gym membership and you haven't been to the gym in a year, it's like, stop paying that $50 a month to EOS, cancel it. Stop paying that $25 Disney Plus subscription you don't use because your kids are all 18 out of the house. Cancel it. Whatever it is, it's like, boom, that just saved you $200 or $300 for the year, or $100 a month or whatever.
One of the things that you'll find is you do this as you go through, especially the 90 days. If that takes a little longer than 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But as you go through that process, you'll find, wait a minute, it's only $20. Well, how many of only $20 do you have? And you might find you have 10 or 15, only $20. Well, that's now $400 or $300.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of money. And that's that's kind of the things that awareness that brings change. That's where it really starts to kind of manifest, is because people realize, wait a minute, I just spent, it was only $20 in my mind as I was spending it.
Yeah.
But I did that 20 times last month, and that's $400.
Yep. One of the things I early looked on with when my budget was a little bit more tight, right? When I was earlier on in my career, wasn't making as much money. And one of the quick things I did, though, that is absolutely the best thing to do, is just think about other things that have saved me money. I realized I was eating out a lot more than I'd ever eaten in my life. I was like, it just was too inconvenient to pack a lunch for work and all that. I was used to college being able to go home midday and all that. And I was just like, oh, well, wait. And I'm like, oh, I'm spending $12 on average on lunch. I'm eating out 4 days a week. I did the math on that. I'm like, holy crap, I'm spending like $10,000 a year on this. If I switch to just eating leftovers from home or making some food, I'm like, that's only going to cost me $2,000 a year. I'm like, okay, I just saved myself, $6,000-7,000 because I changed one habit. And it wasn't because, right, it was obviously it takes more effort, but I'm like, this will make everything else work out, right? Because we were saving for a house at the time. And I'm like, well, $7,000 will definitely make a dent towards a down payment on a house.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, love it.
And to the naysayer who just says, well, I don't want to do that. I like eating out. If you like eating out, then cut something else out.
Yeah.
Find something else that is not bringing you the value so it matches. And so that's the thing that's what, again, that was your personal experience because personal finance is what? Personal.
Yes to one thing is no to another. It's fine if you say yes to using your money that way.
If that's
but be intentional about it.
Exactly.
Right. And at the end of the day, if your expenses are more than your income, you have to change something because that's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
That's not sustainable. But if it's not, it's like, okay, you're saying yes to eating out 4 days a week with my example. I can say yes to that, but I'm saying no to buying a house within a year, whatever that time frame was that we had. We actually did it within a year. We did more than just me eating out.
Awesome.
But right, we did all sorts of stuff, saved the $20,000, whatever it was needed. We really cut our budget back and boom, we did it, right?
Awesome.
But I recognize I said no to those habits to say yes, and I continued in those habits.
Awesome.
Right. And so that continues to save me money. Well, not saving money, spend less money because buying something for $750 when it's on sale from $1,000, you didn't save $250, you still spent $750. But
exactly.
Yeah. It's right. Saying yes is saying no to.
Yes.
Say yes to
the things that bring you value and no to the things that don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I know some people that like, they're just so drowning in, we take our kids to soccer practice and they have this and they have after school band. And they're like, wait a second, do we really value those things? Or did I just grow up doing sports and I want my kids to do sports? Do they enjoy it? If you know, well, cut that back. Oh, that saves us $500 per kid per summer for soccer camp because they don't actually care about it. Oh, well, what are we going to do instead? Oh, well, they want to do art classes or they want to do performance or they want to be a singer. Okay, use the money the way, like, even if you're still spending the money, it's spending it more in alignment. And that's why I like the whole goal set. It's like, what do we actually want? Not spending because it's a standard, right? Not the tradition of our fathers.
Or you have to be the soccer mom,
Yeah. Nothing wrong with being a soccer mom.
No, not at all. I bet if you have a kid that's not into that, get them in. Like my daughter, she didn't want to do sports. She wanted to do cello and piano. So we have piano lessons and cello lessons instead. So it's just where are your values and put your money there.
Yeah, aligned. Yeah, like me, I really liked camping, and so I've gotten into camping more lately. Thankfully, that's a relatively cheap hobby. Camping and board games is my thing.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Okay, I feel like we've hit on a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about how to utilize. I feel like that's just outside the scope of this. We talked about how to do it better. Like we could talk a little about how to invest, but I think that's not as vital, right? Like once you have the cash flow, you can invest. You can get life insurance. That's important to have. Obviously, you should build up an emergency fund because that gives you more stress relief and all that.
So I'll just touch on it really quickly. I have a 7-step process that I walk people through. The first step is that mindset, is the mentality. What are your beliefs? What are your habits? What are your behaviors? What did you grow up believing around money? What did you see modeled about money? And that how is that affecting your current behaviors? The next one is cash flow. Step 2 is cash flow. You have to have more money coming in than what's going out. Step 3 is building a savings account. So let's say I was talking the other day and you've had on your show even a budgeting coach or a spending coach. Yeah. She's excellent. And
Marianne Stenquist. She's great.
Shout out to her, right? So anyways, she and I have chatted before, and she says, Paris, I free up cash flow. I can free up hundreds. I talk to them about why they're spending the way they are and all the different things that she does in her expertise. And then I asked her a question. I said, what do you tell people to do after they've freed up 400, 500, 600, 8,000, whatever it is, after they've freed up the money, what do you tell them to do with it? And she says, I don't. I just tell them now they can go do whatever they want with it. Now, I've had experiences in life where if you don't follow up with people, they'll go buy another car, they'll go buy another boat, they'll go buy bigger rims, they'll go buy a bigger TV, they'll go do something, lifestyle creep, inflation.
It's the whole buckets thing, right? If you don't fill it with rocks, intentional things, it'll fill with sand. And either way, that money's going to be used because that's the way humans are.
Exactly.
We use what we use.
And so I tell them, I said, when you free up cash flow, send them to me because then I'll show them what to do with it. So the third step in my process is savings, building up a strong emergency fund, building up sinking funds, building up that Christmas fund, the birthday fund, bring a car repair fund, a home repair fund if you're a homeowner. It's, if everybody who has medical insurance has a deductible.
Yeah.
And if you
have a sinking fund for your deductibles,
exactly,
then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I know that every year we spend about X number, $300. We just got a new prescription drug plan, but now we're spending much less. But we were spending a couple $100 a month on prescriptions and medicines and vitamins. And so we have a fund for that, that I fund it every year. And then I don't have to worry about it. There's no guilt. There's no shame because I already have the money for it. And so then that's this after savings. And I think that the next step is in my process is debt management, reduce, eliminate, and manage debt. Now people might say, well, Paris, I can't save money if I'm in debt. So
you can,
by the way, yes, you can. Absolutely.
And you need to, because it gives you that buffer.
So the savings, if you're in debt, a lot of debt, so I only say save to a point.
Yeah.
Save to have a savings goal, and it should be 1 month of fixed expenses. Start, because if most people, when they say, oh, the experts are saying I need to have 3 to 6 months of my expenses, they look at, I spend $5,000 a month. That means I need to have 15 to 30 grand. And then their mind just like shuts off because there's no way I'm going to get 30 grand. And so I say, stop.
Start with 1 month.
Start with 1 month.
Start with $1,000, then get to 5.
Start with your fixed expenses, and then move to 1 month of variable expenses. Then go to 2 months of fixed expenses and 2 months of variable. Like build.
And then once you're there, you can go into the debt.
Exactly.
Get rid of the debt, and then you can get the higher.
The other part about debt is some debt is okay to maintain, and some debt you should eliminate right away. And
like a mortgage is fine debt.
Let's put in a plan to pay off that debt more quickly. And if you're funding the plan, and you make an extra $1, let's put that $1 towards savings, or put that $1 in. So fund the plan, so debt. And then after that is risk management. You have to have
life insurance.
You have to have life insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, renters insurance.
Adequate.
Yeah, renters insurance. All those. I have umbrella insurance as well.
Yeah. Ooh.
So So I'm like, you have to have those protections. And to me, that's a form of emergency fund.
Yeah.
Because matter of fact, I just was reviewing a quote to have it's kind of an Aflac kind of a thing where if you go to the emergency room, they'll pay you a certain dollar cash amount, they pay it to you, and then you can use that for to pay your bills. And so to me, I'm like, well, that's an extra expense. No, it's part of my emergency fund, if you will. So I don't mind taking money from my emergency fund to pay for those things, because if I go to the hospital and have a huge bill, that's going to come from my emergency fund anyways. You might as well use it to.
You can use some of that cash there to protect. It's called
leveraging. I'm leveraging my emergency fund for a bigger cash back to me through those insurance products. And so that's the fourth one. Then the sixth step is where we really begin to build wealth.
Yeah. And
I call it my MBA. And people are like, Paris, I don't want an MBA. I don't want to go back to school for all that. And I'm like, no, my MBA is a massive bank account. So I'm going to help you grow, whether it's real estate, whether it's stock market, whether it's building a business, and probably all three, or at least two of the three. You need to have money in the stock. I was just talking to somebody.
You need to have investments regardless.
You need to have a plan A to retire, and then a plan B to retire. And if your business, you want to grow a business and sell it and retire on the proceeds, that's great. But what if businesses aren't selling? So you have a plan B with your in the market, stocks and mutual funds and ETFs. Really, that's where I go.
That's where I go with ETFs. Yeah. My entire investment is like 12 different ETF funds. So I'm a big believer in it. But I don't care if you need mutual funds, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, mutual funds better than nothing. So and that's where I educate folks. I don't care what you do with your money, but I just want to give you the pros and cons so that when you make a decision with your money, it's from an educated standpoint.
Yep.
And I just want to teach you the rules of money. What you do after that is up to you. And
totally fine.
Yeah. Once you've paid me, I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. So the other part, the last step is leaving a legacy or building something that can be passed on to the next generation. And that's not always just money. Life insurance is part of that. Your estate planning is part of your trust, your wills,
trust.
But not just wills and trust, but are you passing on a work ethic? Are you passing on a morals and values? And are you looking to you're teaching your children things that they need to learn? There's a really good book that talks about, it's called The Ultimate Gift. I don't know if you've ever read it.
Yeah.
Have you?
They made a movie about it.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely. Fantastic story. And there was a story about a billionaire who dies, and his greedy, people, they're all excited because they want to get the money. And he created a process where he could take one of his grandsons that he thought he could save, and he planned out a whole thing for a year. This kid got certain tasks that he had to do, and if he completed them on time in the right way, then he would get the next task. And by the end of the time, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but go watch the movie. But by the end of the year,
read the book.
Read the book. He got a significant inheritance.
Yeah.
And because of that whole process, it's just like, you know what? That's the legacy that I think you should do. And so I don't, I've built this 7-step process over the years based on my experiences working with people. And I believe that each one of those steps builds on the next one. And if you want to have a strong foundation, that's why I put building wealth and retirement step 6, because people will come to me and say, Paris, what's the best stock to pick? Well, are you in debt?
Yeah.
Do you have a positive cash flow? Like, if you don't have a positive cash flow,
you can't invest in it anyways.
You have no savings and you have a debt up your eyeballs. Why are you talking to me about stocks and investing in ETFs and mutual funds and indexes? Like, you need to work on the savings account. What I personally believe that savings accounts have a goal. And once you hit the goal,
stop funding the wealth.
Exactly. Stop funding the savings accounts because they're full.
It's almost like it's an insurance policy. The savings account is the insurance policy against something going wrong while you're building the wealth. So like you have to fund each thing in order.
Yes.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah. And so once you fund the savings account and it's full, spill over into investments. And then that spillover.
And if you have an emergency that you haven't fully planned for, like you have a sinking fund for your car. Okay. Maybe you weren't fully funded on that quite yet. And you have to dip into your emergency fund. Okay, cool. Guess what? Your next months of cash flow, you're going to be refilling that bucket. And once it's full, you start investing again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Are you guys seeing this?
Yes. Once your savings account's used, refill it back up and then go back into investing again. Absolutely.
I love it.
I appreciate that you're catching the vision.
Yeah. Well, it's part of how I haven't explained a lot of this in the ways that you have. And I like, because I've been out of it for so long, right? 8 years working as an insurance agent, where before that I was a financial coach at UVU and when I was in college. And then, I just stopped doing it. And sometimes I wish I hadn't, but I was just so scared of like going into sales and all that. And then of course I ended up selling insurance, which is its own thing, but auto and home insurance. But it's just like, I love these concepts, and I know how to apply them, but sometimes I'm not the best at explaining them. So I really like this because you're able to label it and be like, well, why are we doing it this way? Well, what's the functionality behind it, right? What's the mindset around how this works that makes it so you behave better? And I just think that that's great. How getting on the same page as your spouse. Yeah, if you're setting different goals and you're saying, oh, I want to save more than this, you're feeling frustrated because you have a goal in mind of 20% savings rate or whatever it is, so you can get to retirement quicker. Like, well, I want to retire early. Fire, like you were talking about. If your spouse isn't on board with that goal, well, they're just thinking we're going to save. They're kind of like confused. Why do you want to save so much?
Yeah.
Like, let's enjoy life. So those goal setting to get on the right page, so you have a reason to all that madness, keeps you both and the accountability and the partners and this is so cool.
Yeah.
I've been excited to talk about this. This has been fun.
Yeah, it has been. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. If someone, we're kind of wrapping up here. If someone is, I have one more thing I wanted to ask about, actually. I do a segment at the end called Ask Jacob a Question, and I figured I'd ask you the question. So one of my listeners, Beth, shout out to Beth, she said, if you had a book you'd recommend for getting out of debt, I know we've talked about a lot of books. What book would you recommend to read to work on getting out of debt?
So I'm gonna go back to mindset a little bit, because my question to you, Beth, is why are you in debt in the first place? And not a shame, blame kind of thing.
No shame.
Like, just figure out, why did you get in debt in the first place? Part of the reason, sure, you might have had a medical emergency and that was beyond your control and you're in debt and you've got to work through it. Totally understand. Most folks, though, are in debt because they just didn't get the mindset right. They didn't get their cash flow right. And now they buy something for $150 when they only have $100 and they still do it anyways. So the first thing would be kind of work on your mindset. So oh shoot, what's the name of the book? There's Brad Klontz and Adrian Brambilla got together and wrote a book. And it's, oh shoot, I can't think of the name of it right now, but I know the name. I can get it to you and probably get it in the show notes. But
sure, I'll throw it in the show notes.
It's a book about mindset. I think it's 21. Oh, goodness sakes. Why am I blanking right now? But it's a really good book because it goes through all the mindset issues and it talks about a lot of the stuff that I've talked about here today in the show to help you with that. And that's a really good book. Brad Klontz, Klontz, and Adrian, Adrian Brambilla, Brambilla.
Brambilla.
And if you look that book up, it's I
also want to look it up really quick.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Klontz and Brambilla.
Yeah, it's a book about mindset. And shoot, I'm so sorry that I've not had.
No, you're good. I sprung that one on you. Start Thinking Rich.
There
21 Harsh Truths.
That's it.
To take you from broke to rich.
Yep. That's the book.
Oh, to financial freedom. There we go. Start Thinking Rich, 21 Harsh Truths to Take You from Broke to Financial Freedom. Cool.
That's the book.
I love it. I'll have to add it to my reading list. I was thinking, because I grew up with a lot of Dave Ramsey advice, and I feel like 90% of his advice is good for 90% of people. That's kind of the way I talk about him. But my recommendation on it is Total Money Makeover. It's a little bit of an older title from Dave Ramsey, but I like, it's a similar concept. It's if you can't use your credit cards well, get rid of them so you stop going in debt, so you physically can't do it anymore, right? Or whatever, right? Like that sort of mindset. And yeah. And it's a little bit more strict. Like they talk about, they recommend the envelope method for budgeting, right? Which I don't recommend that. It's a little bit too, but anyways, that's where I would recommend starting. But that's cool. I'll add that to my reading list, and I'll have to return and report and share about that. But cool. Awesome. Thanks for answering Jacob's question today. Thanks so much for Beth. If you guys have your own questions you want me to ask guests on the show, feel free to leave a comment or email me at thefinancialginger@gmail.com, and we'll throw them in the show as we always do. If something has resonated with someone listening today and they're like, I want to get a hold of Paris or access his obviously the free gift, or do his 90-day challenge or get personal coaching, how can people find you? And we'll throw this in the show notes too.
Absolutely. So pariscluff.com is my website. There's lots of resources there that you can look at in different episodes. I'll probably post this episode on there eventually once it comes out, and you can listen to all the podcasts where I've been a guest. You can go pariscluff.com on YouTube, and you'll see my YouTube channel. Sorry, not pariscluff.com on YouTube. It's Paris Cluff.
Paris Cluff on YouTube.
Well, it's actually at Financial Self-Reliance, but just type in my name and it comes up because it's there. But obviously, the most important or the fastest way to get me into my ecosystem, if you will, is to just download that free gift. Because when you download the free gift, it's an ebook that goes through a lot of the different things we talked about today, shares some stories about some fun things. It goes through the 90-day look back and some other strategies in there to really kind of dial in your budget, and then gives you a challenge for the next 30 days to really see where you can lower your expenses yourself. And then I'll probably, if you put in your email and other things, if you put in your phone number too, I'll probably shoot you a call and say, hey, tell me about your experience with it. And if you got everything you needed from the ebook, great.
Sweet. If you want more,
we can do. I'm a dad. I'm a father. I'm just a regular guy. I don't bite, so I'm easy to get along with.
Hard.
And if you want to work with me, great. If you don't, I totally understand.
Stress,
I'm not everybody's thing, but I feel like I can help anybody with wherever they are. I've met with multimillionaires, and I've met with people who are just getting started and have barely got enough money to pay their bills. Yeah. And in fact, I just talked with a guy, and he was $600 negative every month. And I showed him some ways to get positive by a lot. And he was like, Paris, this was the most valuable session I've had in a long time with anything related to my life.
Love it.
And so that was just, and we have another follow-up call here tomorrow. So I just love helping people with their money. I would do it for free if I could, but my wife says no, I have to make some money. So I would love to help you if you're interested.
Well, I will say, people, especially with coaches, when you pay for something, you're more likely to follow through on it.
Exactly.
Which is really, really important.
I think
free advice is worth that much.
Yeah. And I think another thing too, that a lot of people don't want to get into somebody like a coach like me is because they feel bad.
Yeah,
they feel guilty.
There's guilt, shame.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you work with me, there's no shame, no blame, just results.
Yeah. Well, you said around 2008, right? You ended up on food stamps for a while, right? Yeah. You've been in those economic conditions. Like, you don't care. You're here to help make a better future for those people. And that's something I've really felt, especially as we've talked before coming on the podcast, is just, right, you sincerely want to help people. And I think that's important. That's all I want. That's actually part of why I launched my podcast. Like, sure, yeah. Hey, if you need an insurance quote and you're in Utah, right, I'm your guy for auto and home insurance. But really, I wanted to have interesting conversations with cool people doing cool things and hopefully help someone along the way, right? Someone's listening and they get helped by this. Couldn't be happier.
Perfect.
But sweet. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys want to watch another video, there should be one somewhere above me. But thanks so much. Shoot a like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz.